Hello, Jennifer here. Today I'll be taking you through NPS. Understanding NPS. NPS is a critical concept in customer experience. It is very interesting. Come with me. For this course outline, you're going to learn what NPS truly is, why is NPS important to organizations, what kinds of organizations use NPS, what question is asked during the NPS. By the way, NPS stands for Net Promoter Score. Okay, how is the NPS calculated? Is it really as stringent as people say? Now, when you're done with your NPS, or first of all, how do you even gather your data for NPS? How do you analyze your NPS data? What do you do with the feedback? How do you manage detractors? All these and many more you will learn in this short course. Okay, so what is NPS? NPS stands for Net Promoters. It is a metrics in customer experience used to measure your customers' loyalty to you. It's something that you use to gauge how loyal your customers are to you. Are they really your advocates? How likely are they to recommend your brand to their friends or their families? Now, here is the deal. It's easier to retain existing customers than gain new customers. It's even more cost effective retaining existing customers. Now, it's more like an icing to the cake. If you now have customers that are so satisfied with your product that they are willing to recommend you freely to their family and friends. And a lot of organizations I know that have grown, those organizations grew through referrals. So NPS simply gauges your customer satisfaction level in the sense that it checks for their advocacy. How likely are they to recommend you? So the NPS typically has one question, right? The question is simple. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, how likely are you to recommend my organization to your family and friends? That is what we ask customers during NPS. And of course, when they choose their responses, we can then go a step further to say, why did you choose this response? Or why did you rate this? Why did you give us this scoring? So that's the concept of NPS. Why does NPS matter? NPS matters because it helps you understand how your customers truly feel about your brand. There is no better reward or there's no better way to gauge how your brand is doing than through NPS. Jeff Bezos once said many years ago that they are not, Amazon is not competitor focused. They said they look out for what competitors do, but they are more customer focused and customer obsessed. And one of the ways you can know how your customers truly feel about you is when they rate you, okay? When they give you their NPS scoring. NPS scoring. How is NPS scored? I know we all have heard this phrase. 10 is for God, 9 is for my ancestors, 8 is for my mommy and dad. You can take 7. That is a typical mindset when people are scoring you. And unfortunately, if you have customers that rate you this way, then they have actually brought down your NPS. So how is NPS scored? Don't forget that we ask customers on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. How likely are you to recommend us to your family and friends? Now, if a customer picks between 1 to 6, that customer is regarded as a detractor. Doesn't matter what the customer says. If the customer gives you 1 to 6, the customer is a detractor. It means that that customer is not happy with your brand and will not recommend you. Now, if a customer rates you between 7 and 8, you think is good, right? Sorry to burst your bubble. That customer is a passive customer. You know when they say you are neither hot nor cold, that is how it is when a customer rates you between 7 and 8. Guess what? In the NPS scoring system, those set of customers are not considered. Now, if you have a customer that rates you 9 to 10, that customer is your promoter. That customer is feeling your brand. Now, when NPS is calculated, the detractors are subtracted from the promoters. The, the outstanding is divided by the total number of respondents to get your score. So let's take an example. If you deployed your NPS to 10 customers, and out of the 10 customers, let's say four of them rated you 9 to 10. That means that they are your promoters. Now, out of them, let's say about three of them rated you passives, right? They rated you between 7 and 8. Those are passives, they are not regarded. Now, you now have another three that rated you 1 to 6. Those are your detractors. In calculating your NPS, we're going to say 4, which are your promoters, minus 3, the detractors, to give you what? 1. So you have 1 over the total number of respondents, which is 10, times 100. So your NPS score will be 10%. Yes, it is that stringent. But that is the true test of loyalty. I hope you've learned this. Are you new to the CX game and you're wondering, how do I deploy my first NPS? Don't worry, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to tell you that. Okay, so for NPS is not useful if you do not take immediate actions, to fix the gaps that the customers have complained about, right? So the end goal of the NPS is to fix the gaps and to also know what your customers love about you so that you can improve. Remember, I said after you've asked the one question, you always need to ask your customers, can you tell us why you gave us this rating? So now, in telling you why they scored you, some of them may give you good feedback and some of them may give you feedback that they feel like your brand needs to improve upon. So now, before setting up your NPS, it is very critical that you have a stakeholder engagement session. Stakeholder means in your organization, schedule a meeting, not a very long meeting, just like a very brief meeting of key stakeholders like the product team, you can bring in the tech team, the business teams, maybe the heads of the product, the business operations. Just bring in critical stakeholders into your meeting and then discuss with them to say, oh, we are about to deploy NPS for this period. Typically, brands deploy NPS quarterly. Yes, NPS can be automated such that, let's say, when you're done with a particular maybe mobile app, you see the question, how likely are you to recommend? So it's automated. However, you still find brands that deliberately, at the end of maybe certain quarters, deploy NPS. So if that is the route you're taking, bring your stakeholders to a meeting and have an initial conversation with them, letting them know that you are about to deploy this NPS. Now, the goal of that session is to inform them and also to find out from them if there are certain things they are looking out for, for this NPS that you're about to deploy. Now, the reason you may want to ask could be that when you tell your customers, what do you like about us during the NPS, or why did you give us this score? So people who are promoters, you most likely ask them, can you tell us what you like about us? Now, for some people, they go ahead to give drop down options for customers to select, and also give customers this open box for them to type just as they have it in their hearts. So if you're giving customers those drop down options, you may want to tailor those options to what the business has said. Maybe the business is trying to introduce something or have just introduced something and they want to gauge if their customers really like that thing, right? So it's an avenue for you to also fix that into your drop down options if your customers will pick it as part of the reasons they are now your promoters. However, stakeholder engagement is very important, such that your stakeholders are already anticipating that this NPS is going out and they're anticipating for the results. That way, when the results come in, you can easily get their buy-ins to do what they need to do to fix the issues that have been raised by your performance. Okay, so data points. Your data in NPS is very critical because you don't want to have a skewed NPS score or an NPS that is skewed. So let me give you an example. In a multi-product organization where you probably have you're selling loans, you're selling investments, and what else can you be selling? Anything else, right? You want to make sure that as you're getting your NPS responses, you have equal representation of the customers that have taken your loans, customers that have taken your investments, and customers that have taken some other products. The reason it's very important is because in coming up with your organizational NPS score, you don't want it to be skewed to one direction. So let's give in this same example, if you deploy to 100 customers, and out of your 100 customers, 90 of them are your loan customers. Whatever NPS score you come up with is not a good NPS score because it doesn't really show how your entire customer feel about business, right? And that results may be good or too bad, right? But you want to make sure that your results go round, right? So in picking your data, try and get slightly equal representation of data from the different segments. Now, if you have some segments with a lot more customers, you may want to do a percentage, right? Oh, in my loan customers, I have 100,000 customers. Okay, 20% or 10% of that should be like, let's say, 10,000. But in my investments, I have just 5,000 customers. 10% of that can be like 500. So you can just, use a percentage and all that. But generally, try to get response from at least 10% of your customer base. But if that is not possible, which mostly is not, except you have automations in place, you can just try and work with between 3 to 5% of your customer base. But that data is very important. In fact, the second degree of segmentation may even involve you going deeper, right, into deeper segments. So, for instance, even within the loan that you're selling, you may have different loan types. You may have loans for students, you may have loans for business owners, you may have loans for salary earners. So you want to make sure that in getting the data of the people you want to survey, you have picked, some school people, you've picked some business people. That way it gives you an idea. So at the end of the day, when you're analyzing, you need to look at the segment that are not so happy with your services and then improve on what they are complaining about or what they've complained about. The data is very critical in NPS. Okay, deploying the NPS survey. Now, if you already have automated surveys in place where once I'm done, once I get an investment or once I do an investment, I automatically get a survey. That's good. Once I get a loan, I automatically get a survey. That's good. If I log onto your app, I get a survey, the NPS survey. That's good. But a lot of times, that is not what you find, right? So you have to then define your deployment channels, right? So a lot of organizations deploy via email, but the thing with email is that you may not get as much response as expected, right? But in order for you to drive response rate in your email, make sure you have a very good creative that draws attention to people. You can use terms like not necessarily survey, but make people feel important. So, for instance, if I got an email that said or that said, "Hey Jenny, you are going to be part of our success. Can you tell us what we can do better?" Or, "Hey Jenny, you've been part of our success story. We appreciate you. Now we want to know how we can serve you better." So you find people being very creative in the terminologies they use in deploying their NPS service. Now you can also have some reward systems in place. You can have some budget set aside for your NPS period. So if I get a notification to say, "Hey Jenny, take this quick survey for a chance to win an airtime," I most likely want to take it because I mean it's free money and I would have given my opinion anyways, right? Again, in segmenting your customers, you know who to deploy what to. So for instance, the NPS for the students, the airtime will most likely work. But if you have business owners, right, you may want to deploy an NPS that speaks more value to them. They are not interested in surveys, but they are interested in whatever can help them grow their businesses. Yeah. Now that's the email route. Um, I can tell you for free, for any time you attach a reward to your email NPS survey, you see the numbers trickling in. But please make sure you fulfill your reward promise because if you don't, when you come back the next quarter, you're not going to get responses. Yeah, so calls is also another way of deploying your NPS survey. So if you have an outbound team within your contact center, at the beginning of the month, right, or the month you're deploying the survey, they can already start. And if you have an auto dialer within your contact center, If you don't understand what auto dialer is, you can watch my subsequent videos. If you have an auto dialer, it automatically helps you dial your customers and assign to the outbound agents. Now, outbound agents NPS is usually it's also like a channel that people have argued, is it good, is it not good? In my opinion, I think it's good. Everything has its ups and downs. For the email channel, people are more able to give their feedback objectively, right? But people have argued that if you call me on the telephone, I would not be able to say to you, I'm rating you a 0 or a 1, because because of that human empathy. But if I was rating via email, I'm able to rate objectively without feeling bad. But that's not necessarily the case, because when you call on the phone, people speak more. People are sort of lazy to type. But if you call them on the phone and you have serious feedback for your organization, you hear them venting and you hear them speaking from their hearts. That way you can pick the message, right? And the agents can also document and document more voice of customer insights. So I think the email, the call is they are fantastic ways of deploying NPS. And you can go a step further to send SMS blast. Now, in our role today, we've seen that SMS blasts have um, more success rates than any other form of blast because people are literally on their phones 24/7, and so they are more likely to see your SMS blast than anything. So when you deploy your surveys, you can deploy via SMS blast and then embed the link in the SMS so they can click, view your questions and raise. And don't forget, if you have reward perks, you can put that in your SMS. Fill this quick survey for a chance to win 10,000 naira, whatever it says. So those are the recommended channels for deploying your NPS. Okay, so what are the deployment tools? Okay, I'm new. I don't know what tools to use. I want to send my survey. It's actually very easy. So I'll start with, so for mature organizations, they already have these tools. They've invested in survey tools, or they've upgraded their survey monkey tools and things like that. But um, I'll just tell you some of the tools out there that you can use. SurveyMonkey is one of the tools. There's a free version. You can use that. We have Satmetrics. Well, I know Satmetrics is largely free. Some contact center solutions actually come with survey modules that enable you to put in your NPS questions and they're deployed, right? So you can ask your vendor. They may not have deployed those modules for you because those modules come at extra cost. But if you reach out and you ask them, you most likely find out that those modules exist. So for most of these tools available, you can also use your Google form if that's what you want. But if you're using some forms that you're not really using the paid version, you may need to, when you get your responses, download, calculate the numbers like I said earlier, or how many people rated 1 to 6, how many people rated, and then you calculate it. However, these other tools I spoke about, Metrics, contact center solution, personally I've used it specifically, and they have the survey module embedded in there. What they do for you is they give you this dashboard. So the moment you deploy your NPS, you can see in real time how many people have responded, um, how many people are passives, promoters, and they give you these numbers daily. So you can see how your numbers are going up, and you can also see the comments coming in real time. Managing detractors. A lot of people do not like complain. They don't like receiving complaints. They don't like people who complain. But I say to them, those are your real customers. Someone like me, if a brand offends me, complaining is too hard. I just walk away because it's difficult leaving my work and everything I have to do to start typing a complaint. I don't have the time for that. If I send you a complaint, just know that I like your brand and I do not want to work with it. So people should learn to appreciate their customers that complain or that leave feedback that are considered negative. So that brings me to the concept of detractors. Now, anybody who rates you between 1 to 6, like I said, is a detractor. Now, the moment you send out your NPS, you need to monitor, especially if you have that dashboard. You need to monitor for your detractors, people who have rated 1 to 6. Look at what they have said. If there's any atom of complaints there that you need to fix, please make sure there's someone on standby within the contact center that calls the customer immediately to apologize to the customer and resolve the problem. right? So, because it's not easy to take surveys, a lot of people do not take surveys. Even I find it very difficult taking surveys, not because I don't like the brand, but because a lot of times it's as if 24 hours a day is not enough for you. So if you have someone who has taken out time to fill out your survey and dropped a complaint, please reach out to the customer, manage the detractor, appreciate them for the feedback, and solve the issue ASAP. Now, analyzing your NPS results. So when your NPS, you're done deploying and you feel like you've gotten your expected number of respondents, it's time for you to analyze your NPS. Simply, if you already have a tool that does the analysis for you, good and fine. Just get the insights from the tool, and that's it. However, if you do not have a tool, just simply download your data into Excel or Power BI if you have the skills. First of all, get the general NPS score. This is a score that affects the entire business, right? Maybe it can be any score, to be honest. Now, segment the feedback, segment the ratings, right? Using our previous example, there's the loan business and there's the investment business. Now, group the responses by loan business. What did the loan business rate us? What is our NPS score from the customers who took our loans? Then find your NPS scores from the customers who took your investments. I already explained how to get your NPS scores. When you have everything, you subtract the detractors, the people that rated you 1 to 6, minus them from the people that rated you 9 and 10, over the total number of respondents times 100. That's how you get your NPS. So you get the scoring for the different segments. And also, when you're analyzing their feedback, that is the reason for rating you, whether they promoted or detracted, when you are analyzing, also like break out those analysis into the different segments. Okay, what did our loan customers say they like about us? What did our investment customers say they like about us? What did they not like about us? So you have to segment that way, break down. If you can even go further, break down by age. Okay, what did the male customer, sorry, I meant gender. What did the male customers say? Are our male customers happier than the female customers? Is there something that we're doing right for the male customers that we're not doing for the female? Segment by location too. You'll be very surprised that sometimes your negative feedback may be coming from certain locations. It may actually just be that the people you have in those outlets are not customer centric, or they're not treating your customers the way that they should. So, yes, break down the data again and say, oh, I got so number of responses from Kano State. I got this from Lagos. What was my NPS from people in Lagos, from people in Kano? It opens your eyes to where the problems may be. So it's very critical that in working on your responses, you get the general score and also segment as much as possible. Get your scoring after segmentation and get your feedback for the different segments, whether positive or negative. Okay, so VOC analysis. VOC analysis simply means voice of customer analysis. So now when you get your feedback from customers, you don't just take the feedback the way the customers have said it and dump on the product team or on the technology team and say, go and fix it. You have to do an analysis into the feedback you got it from your customers. So, for instance, if a customer says, "Oh, I'm a detractor, or I'm rating you 1 because my loan was not disbursed on time, my loan was not paid on time, I didn't get my money on time," what you want to do is go deep into that particular customer, take the customer's details, and try and run a check. What caused the delay in this loan disbursement? Oh, you will now see, oh, okay, it's as if on the day this customer took this loan, maybe the network was down, or it wasn't even network, it was just the sales agent that did not apply on time. Or, oh no, it wasn't even the sales agent, it was because the customer gave us an account number that wasn't good and we did not communicate on time. So when you do those analyses, right, per detractor, you are able to come up with the main root cause. Now, as far as the customer is concerned, it is delayed disbursement, right? But now, in doing your root cause, you might have like 20 people that complained about delayed disbursement. But in doing your root cause, you might find that, let's say, 5 out of them, maybe it was network delay that affected them. And another 5 out of them, maybe they gave wrong account numbers, or they gave account numbers in a certain bank that does not accept transfers from the organization. So when you root cause all of those things, you now know what to focus on. So when you are sending your tasks from the NPS, you'll be sure to say technology. We've noticed that 50% of the customers experience network glitch during their disbursement, right? Then you can go back and say, oh, we've noticed that this particular bank, 30% of the customers had this bank account, and they all experience failed disbursement. So you may begin to maybe work with the bank to know why your disbursements are failing, or just tell your customers to give you other bank accounts. That's the in analyzing your voice of customers, you then bring out the main issues that your organization has to solve. It is not the voice of customers directly that your organizations would solve. If not, nobody owns that. If you just say solve for delayed disbursement, whose business is it? But after your root cause analysis, your voice of customer analysis, you can begin to see that the one that belongs to technology goes to technology, the one that belongs to customer experience goes, the one that belongs to communication goes. That way, it's easier for you to make sense of the voice of customers, and it's also easier for your stakeholders to take on their tasks and know what exactly they need to do to improve the customer's experience. Okay, so taking actions, like we said, after your NPS, the most critical part of conducting an NPS is the improvements that come afterwards. So at the end of the day, you may just have like 5 things that you need to fix, because customers would complain, they will say a lot of things, but at the end of the day, when you categorize those complaints, they don't usually exceed 10 things. In fact, you can't even have up to 10 things that you need to fix a lot of times, except there is something really wrong within the business. So a customer, some regardless of how the complaints come, bucket them, group them. So for instance, I might say, I didn't get my money until 5 days later. Another customer might say, oh, my money came in 10 days later. Another customer might say, I thought you people said you were fast. Another customer might say, after everything, I didn't even see the money. I didn't even use the money for what I wanted it for. Now, all these people have said the same thing in different ways. We are all talking about delayed disbursement. So you have to group them properly and then dig in to know what caused the delay. Right. So this is just an example. So making sure that you've identified what needs to be resolved, forwarded this to the appropriate stakeholders, and then start following through on the resolution of those issues. Right? It's very critical. That is the essence of the NPS. If you don't do this, then there's even no need running this service, because as a customer, imagine me giving you feedback today, and 3 months later, I'm experiencing the same thing. So it feels like there's no need speaking to these people. They can never change. You do not want your customers having that mindset about your business. Okay, so um, once your issues have been resolved, or you've resolved your NPS identified gaps, try to give feedback to your customers. You can give those feedback in very, beautiful ways or very funny ways. It doesn't have to be that serious. The customer might just say, I might just receive a notification from your bank to say, you spoke and we listened. And I'm like, oh, really? What is it that you've done? You can just give that insight, or you can say, do you know that you can now do this on our mobile app? All those are NPS feedback that you've now taken into the business, taken to the business, has been resolved, and you're giving feedback to your customers, introducing those things as value adds to them. So it makes them happy, and you should try to do that. Now, when you're done, if you already have a pattern for deploying your NPS, post that post that period, you can redeploy your NPS and try to measure against those things that have been raised before, to see if those complaints still came up, or if they have gone down, or if they have even been totally eliminated. That is the essence of NPS, and that is the joy you get when you deploy NPS. Leveraging promoters. Now, you've conducted your NPS, and you've seen the people that you need to, empathize with or call and everything. But on the other side, is you also have people that are promoters, people that have rated you 9 or 10, people that love your brand. You can leverage them to improve your sales, to grow your brand. I mean, anytime you're doing anything and you're looking for promoters, you're looking for testimonials from customers, these are the people to go to. It's very easy for us to carry out these surveys and just forget about them. No, anytime you have these events, these are the people you need to, go to and say, we need testimonials. They'll be more than happy to do that. Referrals, very well. When you have a referral program within the organization, these are the people that you need to push that referral program to. Oh, if you promote your friends, you get this. If you promote this, you get this. Guess what? They're already promoting you, even without any pay. So imagine what will happen if there's an incentive for them to promote you. You can already imagine that. And then you can feature them in your campaigns, case studies, bring them in, invite them to your seminars and events. But please also invite the detractors. Like I said earlier, your detractors are most likely your most loyal customers. They do not want to leave your brand, and that's why they're taking the pain to give you that feedback. So include them in everything you are doing. Okay, so to wrap this up, NPS is not just a scoring matrix, it's a growth tool that you should use for your business. So whether you are a small business or an established organization, please make use of your NPS to gauge, your customers' loyalty to you. You can drop questions in the comment box. You can also share how you deploy your NPS within your organization. And if you found this training useful, please drop a like, subscribe to my channel for more content, and refer my channel. Be a promoter today.